She has been in love with you since the day you walked in.
The suitcase wheels stopped on the flagstones. The porch lantern buzzed. And nothing about this homecoming made any sense. My name is Owen Calloway. I am 34 years old, and I work in cybersecurity on the incident response side. I was married once. It ended 3 years ago. Quiet, clean, nobody to blame. I filled the hole with work. I took every bad shift nobody wanted. I answered every emergency at every hour and called that living. Then I met Genevieve Brennan at a charity gala downtown, and she turned every light in the room directly onto me.
Out of everyone here, you came over to talk to me?
She was radiant. She was certain. And after 3 years of feeling invisible, being chosen was enough. I met her sister at a backyard barbecue that first summer. Iris was the quiet one at the edge of the yard.
So when a company gets hacked, you are the one who figures out what really happened?
Yeah. I pull the truth out of machines. Most people fall asleep when I explain it.
I will not fall asleep. Keep going.
Genevieve held every room like a stage. Iris held conversations like they actually mattered to her. I proposed after 14 months. She said yes before I finished the sentence. It photographed beautifully. I flew home a day early from Dallas to surprise the woman I was going to marry. That decision changed everything. Iris burst off the porch in a red dress, her eyes swollen, and ran straight into me before I could speak. She sobbed against my chest until my shoulder went dark. And in the doorway, Genevieve just stood there watching.
Owen, thank God. I need to tell you something, and it is going to hurt. My own sister has been trying to take you from me since the day you met.
On the top step sat my red mug, half full of cold coffee. The rim carried a lip print with no lipstick at all. Iris wiped her eyes, picked up her bag, and walked to her car. She did not say a single word in her own defense.
Why are you looking at the mug and not at me?
Genevieve never drank from this mug. She called it the ugly homemade thing. Someone else had been using it. The ferns were watered perfectly. The large ones were soaked. The little succulent was bone dry. Someone knew the difference. The mail was stacked, sorted, and held together with a rubber band. Genevieve had never once brought in my mail in 2 years. The mug sat on the second shelf, its handle turned to the right. My exact spot. You do not do that for a house you are stealing. The dish towel was folded my way. The dying plant had been moved 8 inches into a patch of afternoon sunlight it actually needed.
In my work, the guilty always talk. The innocent go quiet.
Genevieve told the family that her sister had been seducing me for 2 years. She cried at all the right moments.
I have sat across from people who scream at me for finding their own breach.
I sat down with the wedding account statements I had been too trusting to open. The balance was only a fraction of what it should have been. 6 months of steady withdrawals had been transferred into accounts I had never seen. I printed every page and let the paper speak.
Well, at least Dominic is still in the picture for her.
Penelope said the name by accident, Dominic. And in the silence that followed, she realized I had no idea who he was.
Who is Dominic?
Dominic Nash. An ex-Genevieve had once called ancient history. They had reconnected 6 months earlier. The timeline wrote itself. She gathered the entire family in her parents' living room and delivered a closing argument against her own sister.
My own blood tried to steal my future. How do I forgive that?
Her mother held her hand. Her father listened. And the quietest daughter in the family was not even in the room.
Are you really choosing a homewrecker over your own fiancé?
I am not choosing sides. I am reading the evidence, and it does not match.
A wedding coordinator called an unpaid invoice. Half of the deposits had come from a card bearing a name that was not mine. I sat alone at the kitchen table at 3 a.m. with the evidence and a cold cup of coffee I could not pour out. I did not have a revelation on the porch. I had an itch. One quiet inconsistency that the loud story could not explain. She saw the folder on the coffee table and understood everything in one glance. The log file does not care how loudly you speak.
This ugly homemade piece of garbage. I should have thrown it out months ago.
I caught her wrist before the mug hit the wall. I took it gently and placed it back where it belonged.
You can throw anything you want, but you do not get to break this.
Second shelf, handle to the right. My hands were completely steady. That surprised even me. That night, the room Genevieve had shouted in for 2 years finally became still. And in the quiet, I could hear everything. Iris had a small studio across town, shelves filled with unfired bowls, a wheel that was always speckled, hands that were always faintly gray. I told myself I was there to return her belongings and hear her side. Both were true. Neither was the whole reason. I set the red mug on her work table. It was the one thing in that house I could not leave behind.
I need to say this once, and then you never have to see me again. Genevieve told the truth about one thing. I do love you. I have for a long time. That is exactly why I never said a word. You were with my sister. I came to your house because you asked, and because she could not be bothered. 10 days in your kitchen was the closest I was ever gonna let myself get. I made 2. I kept 1. This mug is all I ever took from you.
She slid the second mug across the table until it touched the first. 2 matching pieces reunited, and then she stepped back from them both.
You deserve the truth, not me. Those 2 things are not the same.
Every instinct screamed at me to cross that table. Every ounce of sense told me that reaching for her now would ruin the only thing worth protecting.
Then let the truth stand on its own. And let me stand still for a while.
I ended things with Genevieve cleanly. No courtroom, no revenge. I closed the drained account and returned the ring without making a speech. I took my mug home. I left its twin on her work table. I was not ready to take anything from her either. Not yet. 8 months passed. Winter came to Austin, mild and gray. And throughout that time, we maintained a careful and respectful distance. Not because we had stopped feeling anything, we had not, but because truth needs room to breathe before you build something upon it. Iris worked at her wheel. I worked at my screens. And between us stretched an honest silence that asked for nothing. Felix Calloway sat in his study and read the bank statements line by line. The half-frown on his face became something else entirely. Brenda saw the vendor invoice bearing the unfamiliar name. The doubt she had been carrying dissolved into certainty.
The numbers do not lie. My daughter does.
Dominic Nash disappeared the moment the picture stopped looking good. He was never in it for Genevieve. He was in it for the frame. Genevieve sat alone in a lobby, checking a phone that no longer rang. The audience she had performed for her entire life had left the room. She packed her car and drove to another city. No dramatic scene. She simply became smaller in the family story until she was gone. I watched from behind the curtain. I felt no triumph. I only felt the room finally become quiet.
I did not celebrate. I just felt the room finally go still.
Spring arrived. I stood outside her studio door holding a laptop bag and a question I had rehearsed and immediately forgotten. Sunday mornings at the studio. She worked at the wheel. I pretended to answer emails. Neither of us was fooling anyone. Long walks where neither of us needed to fill the silence. We had both spent enough of our lives being talked over by louder people. Every morning, I reached for the red mug on the second shelf, its handle turned to the right, while still half asleep. Some things never needed to change. Then, one ordinary morning, I chipped it. A clean crack ran down the side, and the deep red glaze split open like a seam. I drove it across town to her studio before the coffee had even cooled. I held it like something that could never be replaced. Iris turned it over in her clay-gray hands and smiled. It was the first real, complete smile I had seen from her in nearly a year.
I can fix this. But not the way you are thinking.
She filled the crack with a thin, bright seam of gold. The break was not hidden. It was lifted up, illuminated, the most beautiful line on the entire cup. It did not look repaired. It looked as though it had survived something and emerged stronger, wearing the proof on its surface.
You do not hide the break. You let it show. It holds better than before.
So do people.
We stood there in the warm studio, the kiln ticking softly behind her, and something that had waited patiently for years finally stopped waiting. Sunday mornings became our language, her wheel turning, my terrible emails, a coffee pot between us that neither of us pretended to need. The first time we sat across from each other, with no excuse at all, we both noticed it at the same moment.
No excuse this time. I just wanted to be here.
I know. So did I.
The porch I had built with my own hands, the ferns along the railing, the quiet street, two people standing side by side with nothing left to hide. Two deep red mugs now sit on the second shelf. Side by side, handles turned to the right, the golden seam catches the morning sunlight.
I reach for that one first, every single morning, without thinking. Genevieve shouted the truth to use it as a weapon. Iris whispered it to set me free.
I married the quiet one. I have never once had to check the logs since.
Two mugs, two people, one porch, and a morning so quiet that you can hear the entire truth without anyone saying a word. I am telling you all of this from the other side of it, knowing everything I could not possibly have known while standing on that porch.
The edge of the frame was the center all along. I was looking at the wrong sister.
The truest thing in my entire life had been watering the ferns correctly and turning the mug handle in the darkness.
I spent my career pulling truth from systems. The truest thing was standing at the edge of every room.
A matching pair reunited at last. One of them carries a bright seam of gold. I reach for that one first every morning.
The truth does not need to shout. It does not need to win the room. It just sits there on the second shelf, handle to the right, waiting for you to notice.
You carry your own version of that mug, something quiet that someone did for you that you have not noticed yet. Look closer. The evidence has been sitting in plain sight. It always is. You only have to stop listening to the noise.
So let me ask you something tonight. If someone turns the truth into a weapon against you, does staying silent make you weak? Or does it quietly make you the most honest person in the room? Have you ever missed someone who truly loved you because they were too quiet for you to hear?
The truth does not need volume. It does not need applause. It only needs one person willing to stand still long enough to see it.
The loudest voice in the room almost always has the most to hide. Kindness done in silence is still kindness. The ferns still grew. The mail still came in. A broken thing repaired with honesty is stronger than something that was never tested. If this story stayed with you tonight, I am glad you were here. Hit that subscribe button so you do not miss what comes next. Leave me a comment and tell me, would you have waited? Or would you have gone to her that day? I read every single one. I will see you in the next story. Share this with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Thank you for staying until the end. That means more than you know.
Two mugs on a shelf, two people on a porch, a golden seam catching the light. Some things, when they are truly real, can afford to wait. Maybe right now, somewhere in your life, there is someone doing small, invisible things for you that you have not yet seen. The ferns are watered, the mail is sorted, the mug is in the correct place, and the quietest person in the room is still waiting. Do not make them wait forever. The edge of the frame has been the center all along. Turn your head, look again. The truth has been there the entire time. Patient, asking for nothing, holding on to nothing that is not already yours. Some people shout the truth and use it like a blade. Some people whisper it to set you free. Learn the difference. And when something breaks, do not throw it away. Fill the crack with gold. Let it show. It may hold better than it ever did before. If someone has ever loved you quietly, from the edge of every room, without asking for a single thing in return, this story was for you. If you have ever been the quiet one, the person who waters the ferns, sorts the mail, and never receives thanks, this story was for you too. You are not invisible. You were never invisible. Someone is going to turn their head, and when they do, the entire room will change. Two red mugs, a seam of gold, a porch at night, and a love so quiet that it never needed to say a single word. Good night.